Hello again, fourth grade. It's been a couple of weeks. We are here to finish the section in your book on water. I think it's science, your science book 5.9, 5.10, and 5.11 sections. You got in your homework packet this week a paper that has a chart on it that says hydrological. So we're going to talk about the water cycle. I just thought hydrological was a really cool word to teach you, so that's why I put it at the top of that one. Hydro is Greek for water. Logos is Greek for the study. So hydrological is the study of water, its cycle, the quality, everything having to do with water. So let's look at the hydrological cycle. Hydrological cycle. All right, I always feel a little bit goofy here talking to a camera instead of talking to you guys. It is much more fun to talk to fourth graders, although I do like the ability to be in any background I want. Back to the notes. Hydrological. So your paper, I think we can put a little picture of it here. Your paper looks like this. It's got the little happy picture of the sun, the word bank on the left, and lots of arrows going every which way. So we're going to do that a little bit at a time. We're going to start with what is happening with the sun over here. So in the water cycle, what's really cool about water, we already know that water has just been around since before creation, right? We don't know when it was created. But the water cycle allows us to reuse over and over again the same water that's always been here. So the water that's in our lakes and rivers was here thousands of years ago, and that's pretty cool. You guys are probably familiar with the basic steps of the water cycle, so let's just take it a step further and talk about take the things we learned about molecules and how water moves and how water changes in those three different states, water, liquid, and gas, and put it into the water cycle and see if we can make more sense of it. So the first thing that happens, on your paper, if you draw down at the bottom, I think there's a nice big space for you to draw like maybe a nice big lake. Just a circle, some little squiggly lines for water. Put a lake down there, right underneath where the arrow pointing from the sun comes. So what happens is the sun's heat, the sun sends energy. So our first arrow, we're going to use that word energy to go, you can draw it inside the arrow from the sun or just next to the arrow from the sun pointing to your new little lake down there. The sun's energy heats up the water and causes evaporation. Now, all right, pause, stop. Cameron, don't use this part. Go back to before I started talking about how to do the notes. Here we go. You have your work cut out for you. No outtakes. Your paper looks like this. Let's look at your notes and start filling in the water cycle. The cool thing about water is that remember those three different states of matter that it can exist in: solid, liquid, and gas. All three of those states can actually be found. We can see them in the air. We see solid forms of water when there is hail or snow that falls to the ground. You know, like over Easter weekend just a few days ago when there was a lot of snow here in Billings. We see the liquid form, of course, when rain falls. And when water is in its gaseous form, it's called water vapor. And we don't actually see that, but it's always there. Water vapor in the air we actually talk about as being called humidity. So humidity refers to how much water vapor the air can hold. Warmer air holds more water vapor than cooler air. You got to remember that because we're going to come back to it. Warm air holds more water vapor than cool air. So now let's look at those notes. At the bottom of your page, underneath that arrow coming from the sun, draw a nice big circle and turn it into a lake. Maybe just a squiggly circle with little water lines. You can color it in blue if you have your colored pencils. We're going to make that a lake. And so the sun rays are pointing toward that lake, that body of water, oceans, rivers, streams, lakes, all of our water on Earth. and the energy from the sun. So there's your first word to use. From the sun's ray coming down, that arrow from the sun, you can write energy inside of it. The sun's energy heats up the water, and that's what's going to cause evaporation. Evaporation is the process where water molecules that are gathered up in all the lakes and rivers and streams in liquid form turn into a gas form. Remember, molecules are always moving around and bouncing around, and the warmer they get, the faster they move. So imagine these water molecules on the top getting heated by the sun's energy, and so they start moving faster, and when they get bumped from a molecule below, they might actually get bumped up into the air and they escape into the air. And so then they become water vapor and stop being the liquid form of water. So those 3 arrows on your notes going up, you can write evaporation next to them or under them, and then add that phrase from the word bank that just says heat causes it. So those 3 arrows, evaporation, heat causes it. The sun's heat warms up those water molecules, they bounce up around, they get faster, some escape into the air, become water vapor, and we know that warm air, warm water is going to start to rise. So, as the molecules are moving and bumping, because they're warm, they want to start moving up, up, up into the air. But, if you remember from the last video, the air is not warmed by the sun directly, but by the sun heating the water and the earth and then heating the air. And so the closer you are to earth, the warmer it is. The farther these water molecules, these warm water molecules get from the earth, the cooler they get. So underneath the clouds, you can write that phrase, cool air, because as these water molecules start to rise, the air gets cooler. And because the air gets cooler, warm air holds more water vapor than cool air. The cool air cannot hold on to the water vapor, and so they go back to their liquid form and they condense on dust particles in the air. That's condensation. You can write condensation in one of those clouds. The cool air plus the warm water molecules rising, attaching to dust in the air forms clouds, condensation. So now the molecules are gathered up above the earth, hanging out, but of course the more that come up and gather, the heavier these clouds become, and eventually the clouds can't hold it anymore. And so now on that right side of your paper where you have the arrow coming down, we're going to write the word precipitation. Precipitation just means how the water comes back down to earth. And we can make a list of 4 things there. You'll see those 4 words in your word bank. It can come down as rain, snow, hail, or sleet, depending on the temperature of the air and other wind conditions and things like that. When it comes down, you might even have room to draw a little river for your precipitation forms to come down in that connects to your lake. And that last arrow at the bottom is collection. So water evaporates into the air, condenses and creates clouds, gets really heavy, falls to the earth as precipitation in one of 4 ways, and then collection happens again in all those rivers, lakes, streams, and oceans. And then the sun's energy, the heat from the sun, causes it to evaporate again and do this whole cycle over and over again. So the water cycle, the hydrological cycle, is very cool, and all of that study we did about molecules and how they move and how water exists in different states really helps us understand how God designed the water cycle to go over and over and over again so that we can keep using that water. And now I think I'm done with my notes and I don't know what to say to you, so it's gonna be a little goofy. Tell you guys I miss you. And I can't wait till we're together again. And maybe I'll just let Mr. Heiliger have fun changing me to different backgrounds. Okay, goodbye, guys.